well, imagine my chagrin when I was the only one to drop their pants. I had no idea it was an audience participation. I'm a dummy. So, as I mentioned, my name Dave the King Wilson. I will further explain how that came about. What happened was, I really started trying to do stand-up comedy for real in 1983, the beginning of 1983. And that's right when Bob and Tom, the Bob and Tom radio show, came to Indianapolis. And I had been doing stand-up comedy for 2 months, and I had 8 minutes worth of jokes. And I was at an open stage up in Indianapolis, and Tom saw me, and he goes, "Hey, you're funny, why don't you come on our radio show tomorrow morning?" And I said, "Okay, cool." So that first morning in the spring of 1983, I went on the Bob and Tom show, and that first morning I did all 8 minutes of my jokes. And when the show was over, Tom said, "Man, that was great, come back next week." And I went, yeah. And it had taken me 2 months to come up with that 8 minutes, right? So I invented a character, the King, Elvis, because it's easier to write jokes for a character than it is for somebody you've never heard of. For example, if somebody you didn't know said, "Man, I was 20 years old before I found out gravy wasn't a soft drink," you're thinking, what? But if the King says, "Oh, man, I was 20 years old when I found out gravy wasn't a soft drink," oh, thank you very much. Ta-da. And that was the hook of the character. Oh, thank you very much. Oh man, I'll never forget the first time me and Priscilla were here in Greenfield, man. We're walking down the street, this pigeon flew over, dropped a big roll right on top of Priscilla's head. She looks at me, she says, "King, can you give me some toilet paper?" I said, "What for, baby? That bird's a half a mile away by now." Oh, and I'll never forget the first time we was in Cumberland, Indiana, we found out something about that. Did you know the population of Cumberland never changes? Yeah, every time some girl gets pregnant, some guy leaves town. Thank you very much, I cannot believe that. I've been very blessed, very lucky over the years, had a lot of great jobs. I've married people, that's a fun job. And I'll tell you why, because there's so much hope and beauty and love when that's taking place, you know. And then as they come up, that little touch of terror because they're standing in front of everybody, right? And I don't normally get to do like normal weddings, it seems like, you know. I was doing a wedding, it was at a VFW hall. And we're standing out there, and the groom and the groomsmen are all out there with me, and we're waiting on the bride and the bridesmaid. And we're supposed to start at 4:30. About 4:45, bride still had no shows. And the guys that were there started heckling the groom that she wasn't going to show up. You know, so that's always a good start to an experience. And then all of a sudden, a bridesmaid shows up and she goes, "The bride would like to talk to you." And I said, "Oh, sure." So I go back and I speak to the bride. And she goes, "Look, you know that part of the service where you say, if anybody here objects to this union, please speak now or forever." She goes, "Don't do that." She said, "If you do, his whole family will raise their hand." And I often wonder what happened to them. And I would do a lot of freebie people that needed help heaven service. I got a call one time from the Johnson County Sheriff's Department. And there was a couple that had a wedding license, but the husband had messed around somehow and been incarcerated. And he was going to be incarcerated until after the license expired, and they didn't want to waste the money. So they got permission to be married at the jail. Yeah, I swear. So I go to the jail, and I will tell you this, God bless the mom and the bride, because they may have been in the Taj Mahal getting married, or the biggest Catholic church in Indianapolis. I mean, they were excited, they were fun, they were ready to go. They bring the groom, and they let him change out of the jail garb. It was very nice. But he's down. I mean, he's not excited at all. And I finally get him off to the side. I go, "Look, man, I know you're incarcerated, but come on, look at your bride and her mother, they're so excited that, put on a smile on your face. You go, I'm just trading one ball and chain for another. I've got to do movies. Yeah, well, not big movies, all right? I got a call from a guy one time. There was a small little movie being made down in southern Indiana. He goes, Dave, we think you'd be perfect for this. We got the perfect gig. We want you to play a dim-witted security guard. All I got to do is act naturally, right? And I don't know if you've ever played a part or a character on TV or radio or just on a play or whatever, but you get a character in your head and you kind of write a script on how you're going to walk and how you're going to talk and how you're going to move and your facial expressions. And so I thought I had all this down to be a pretty good dim-witted security guard. Well, the very first scene I'm in, I have to get in my little security guard car and drive down a road and make a turn and then hit my marks. And I had to hit my marks exactly. I had to park that car exactly where they wanted it because they had these other cameras set up that were going to film the scene and it needed to be in this one spot. And so I'm thinking, all right, I'm not even going to think about being in character until I get this car right where it's supposed to be. So the director goes, okay, action. Okay, here we go. So I'm driving a little car. Okay, don't mess up. Come on, let's do this. Make a turn. Oh, perfect. This is great. I throw that car into park, shut the ignition off, flip the little switch in my head. Now I'm a dim-witted security guard. I hit the car, and I walk to the front of the car. I go deliver my lines back and forth to the other actor. Everything great. Scene ends. Director goes, great, print. Let's move on. Don't even worry about it. We don't need to redo it. Good. One take on my first scene. And I look over finally, and I see the director and the producer, and they're looking at the viewfinder, and they're watching this scene back, and they're laughing. They're going, oh, that's perfect. And I go, man, what's so perfect? What was so perfect? So I have to go up. And I said, guys, what was so perfect about my first scene? Well, what I didn't know was that while I was driving the car, they had these other cameras all set up in different places, shooting my face through the windshield as I drove the car. The director goes, Dave, that is the perfect dim-witted security guard face right there. Damn it, I'm not acting yet. I'm Santa. Surprised anybody? Santa? No. Let me tell you what, best gig ever. When some 4 or 5-year-old boy or girl look at you and their face just explodes, there's no better feeling. It is so much fun. And you gotta be Santa boy. Let me tell you what, yeah, you gotta be in character, because them kids will hit you with questions and stuff like that. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. It's like one little boy, he goes, hey, you were wearing something different yesterday. And I go, well, you don't wear the same clothes every day, do you? No, I guess not. But the things they say to you, you never know. What? One little girl come up and she goes, Santa? She goes, I want a Barbie RV for Christmas. I said, okay, all right. What else would you like? She goes, Santa, I want a Barbie chemistry set. I thought, ooh. She just asked for a Breaking Bad starter kit. Another little boy, man, he was a ball of fire, man. They come in the North Pole there where they had me, and he is running everywhere, and his mom can't get him settled down, and she's trying to grab him and get him collared and get him to come up and talk to me, and she finally grabs him by the back of the neck, and she drags him up and sets him in front of me. And I look at him and go, how are you, young man? What do you want? He goes, Santa, am I on the good list? Well, Santa can't tell this kid he's on the naughty list. I go, oh, yeah, you're on the good list. He goes, finally. That little boy comes up. I go, what do you want for Christmas? He goes, Santa, I want a lump of coal. Why do you want a lump of coal? He goes, because Santa, I want to make a diamond. Boy, that little boy has the optimism of an IU football fan, doesn't he? because you know, some of these states, some states have legalized marijuana. Have you seen that? Yeah, like Oregon and Colorado. Oh, you better believe old Santa doesn't eat the cookies in those states, let me tell you right now. Oh, that's the last thing we need is some family in Denver come down Christmas morning, there I am, laid out in front of the fireplace. One hand on a cookie plate, the other in a Taco Bell bag. And I'll tell you, not every game I've ever delivered, I've enjoyed delivering. Like, you remember that game, the Operation game, you remember that? Didn't it bother you that I was wide awake through the whole thing? And now I gotta do the Canadian socialized medicine version of the Operation game. It's where you start playing, but you can't actually have an operation for 3 months. Oh, and my elves, oh boy, they are feisty. Yeah. They hate living up at the North Pole. Because my elves are only about 2 foot tall. Oh, yeah, you can see their shoes and their driver's license picture. Oh, and we've always got about 3 foot of snow up there at the North Pole. They're always looking at me like, why can't we get our jobs moved to Mexico? Shut up and go make me an iPad. But I'll tell you what, there's so much going on nowadays, we need Santa more than ever, don't you think? Oh, yeah. Because there's so many things. I got a buddy of mine that won't play euchre anymore because he won't order up Trump. But I'll tell you what. I'll tell you, being Santa is the best job in the world. You know what the worst job in the world would be? Working at the unemployment office. Yeah, just think about it. One day you get fired, next day you gotta go right back in. That'd be terrible. Ho, 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 ho! That was Santa. That was Santa. I've had so many great jobs. At one point, I had 3 full-time jobs. I owned a comedy club, bar restaurant down in Greenwood called One Liners Comedy Club at Wilson's Restaurant. Thank you for coming. Thank you. And I was also doing afternoon drive radio on WIBC. Did that for 14 and a half years. I did Bob and Tom for 12 before that, but then at this point I had WIBC for 14 and a half years. And then I traveled with the IndyCar series all over the United States doing all the IndyCar races on radio. And it was just too much working, and doing Colts pregame, postgame shows. It just, Sundays were shot. It was just year round. So we decided, okay, that's enough of that. So we closed down the comedy club restaurant, sold it, and moved on. 2 months after that, the general manager of the radio network came to me and said, Dave, they want me to cut back on the touring crew. I got to cut back on travel squad. I go, well, cut me off the travel squad. I don't depend on this money like the rest of those guys do. I already got a full-time job still, so cut me, so he cuts me off the traveling squad. And then 2 months after that, I got fired at WIBC. So now I'm a career counselor. Passing along my genius to the kids. I'll tell you though, I've been very fortunate, as I mentioned, but being I guess you could say a D-level celebrity, somewhat known some places sometimes, is a great thing. It's very satisfying, but it can be a pain sometimes. An example would be, a few years ago, I had some health difficulties. I had heart troubles, and so I go into the hospital, and they decide they want to do a heart cath. Have you heard of these? So they go in through your veins and look in your heart and take a look around, and they tell you, look, 99.9% of the time, we never have any troubles. It's a twilight sleep. We don't even knock you all the way out, but still, I'm apprehensive. So they wheel me into the operating room, and I look around, and there's all the doctors and nurses, and they're all in their scrubs and stuff, and they slide me over onto the operating table, and they're tying down my ankles, and they're starting to tie down my wrists. And, yeah, I know. There, you know, and there's a doctor there and he's typing into the computer and he looks down, and if you've been in a hospital, you know this for a fact, that 100 times a day they ask you your name and your birthday, right? So I'm laying there and this guy goes, your name, birthday. I go, David Wilson, 1/22/55. And he stops and he looks down and he goes, did you used to own a comedy club in Greenwood? Yeah. And all of a sudden, this little nurse comes out from behind him, sticks her face right in my face. She goes, you're the king. I said, yeah. She goes, do it. Do it? Do what? She said, the huh thing. Well, this is an audience you do not want to disappoint. So man, I'm laying on that table going, huh, huh. Next thing I know, I'm waking up and I hear the doctor going, no problems, no blockages, we're good to go. And I'm thinking, oh, thank God. And I can feel him untying my wrists and I can feel him untying my ankles. And I'm just starting to wake up and my eyes are just starting to open. They're just starting to get focused. And as soon as my eyes really do focus, there's that same little nurse with her face right in my face. She says, tell us a joke. Tell a joke, do I tell him? Oh boy, man. Boy, the allergies were bad this spring, weren't they? Oh yeah. They were so bad my local meth dealer was converting his stash back to Sudafed. That's a chemistry joke for crying out loud. And I went to IPS schools. Unbelievable. Well, being a comedian is a good deal. Traveling around was always a lot of fun. But as you travel around this great country of ours, you learn there are some states in our country that are left best unvisited. Case in point, Kansas. Have you ever had to drive all the way through the state of Kansas? It is the most boring experience of your life, isn't it? Now some of you are thinking, how boring can it get? Here's how you can recreate the thrills and chills of driving through Kansas without leaving your house. What you do is you get in your car, pull into your garage, shut the door. Now tune that radio in between stations so all you get is static. Now sit there for 9 hours. If you get down to the southern part of the United States, do yourselves a favor, don't go to Mississippi, don't do it. There are people in the state of Mississippi whose eyes are way too close together. They are walking, talking flounders, that's exactly what they are. I'm talking mouth breathing, sister dating, trailer living, pimple popping, tube top wearing, achy breaky dancing, look up a chicken's rear end for an egg salad sandwich, stupid. When these people smile, there's molars all the way across the front. And those teeth look like Indian corn. You've seen these people. They couldn't pour water out of a boot if the instructions were on the heel. I got lost in Mississippi. Oh yeah, I got off the beaten path, realized I needed directions. Trying to get to a gig in Meridian, Mississippi. So I see a guy walking down the street, I pull up, I said, excuse me, sir, but can you tell me, how do you get to Meridian? The guy goes, my uncle takes me. Got to work in the Caribbean. Oh yeah, it was great. Got to work on St. Martin. Anybody been to St. Martin? Yeah? It's beautiful. 37 square miles, half French, half Dutch. Of course, the prices on St. Martin, as you might imagine, a little different than what we're accustomed to here in central Indiana. I go in this one store and you get a whole bottle of rum for $2.50. Yeah, good deal. But then at that same store, a stick of deodorant, $12. So I just stayed stinking drunk the whole time I was down. Welcome to the islands, Mom. Went to a nude beach. Anybody ever been to a nude beach? Yeah? Was it what you expected? No. No. Let me tell you right now what nude beaches need. Mirrors. So them naked people gotta look at the same thing they're making me look at. It's like watching a pack of Shar-Pays going up and down the beach all day. We decided we'd take a little puddle jumper airplane, little 4 or 6-seater airplane over to another island. So we go walking out on the tarmac to get on this airplane, and there's a guy standing there with a clipboard. And I walk up and he goes, "How much do you weigh? Why do you want to know?" He says, "So I'll know how much gas to put in the airplane." Fill it up, right? Am I wrong? Fill it up, here's my credit card, I'll buy. Wouldn't you hate to crash into the ocean because somebody lied to this guy? She said 150. As I mentioned, I'm a West Sider. Grew up at 30th and Georgetown, 56-500. Any Indianapolis 500 fans here? Some of my favorite memories of all time take place out there. I got friends that have been involved out there for years, and drivers and stuff, but very fortunate. There's a buddy of mine, Davey Hamilton. You might remember Davey. He was an IndyCar driver for several years. And in 1999, Davey was driving in the IndyCar series for a team owned by A.J. Foyt. And he was driving in the Silver Crown series, which is a step down, but it was like the front engine cars, the roadsters, how the Indy cars used to work on, and it looked like back in the 60s. And it was a team co-owned by A.J. Foyt and a guy named George Schneider. And so the plan this weekend was pretty hectic. Friday afternoon, he was going to practice and qualify his Indy car at Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas, at the Speedway there. Then he was going to fly to Memphis, Tennessee, get up Saturday morning, practice and qualify his Silver Crown car, get back on a plane, fly back to Dallas or back to Fort Worth, drive the IndyCar race on Saturday night, get up Sunday morning, fly back down to Memphis, and drive the Silver Crown race. That was the plan. But Friday afternoon, AJ got a little sideways, and if you know anything at all about AJ Foyt, on occasion he can be cantankerous. And he looked at Davey and said, "You ain't going nowhere." Well, it's 1999. Not everybody had a cell phone. There was no way he could contact George Schneider in the infield of this racetrack in Memphis and say he wasn't coming. So he just doesn't show up. So Saturday night, he goes on, runs the IndyCar race, had a good show, he finished second. He gets up Sunday morning, thinks, well, I got the ticket. So he flies down to Memphis and shows up, and lo and behold, there's a car in the infield. And what happened was, when he didn't show up, Schneider, who was a retired driver but had been retired for several years, went ahead and got in the car and qualified the car and made the race. And when he got down there and talked to Davey, and Davey told him the only reason he didn't come was because Foyt just decided he didn't want him to come. Boy, Schneider was mad. He was stomping mad. And finally, Davey got him calmed down. He goes, "Come on, George. Come on, Schneider. Come on. Pay attention. Let's focus. Tell me about the car. Forget Foyt. Tell me about the car. How's the car?" Schneider goes, "Well, there's trouble with the steering." "Trouble with the steering?" Schneider goes, "Yeah, wheel kept rubbing my belly." Well, Davey gets in the car. He has to start last because he did not qualify the car, but it's a 100-lap race. And Davey's picking him off, picking him off, picking him off. Man, he's doing a great job. 3 laps to go, Davey takes the lead. But as he does, he looks down at the dashboard, and the water gauge is headed for hot, and the oil pressure gauge is headed for 0. And he gets on the radio, goes, Schneider, this engine's gonna blow." Schneider gets back on, he goes, "I don't care, you keep your foot in it, you go as hard as you can." Davey's thinking, man, these were $75,000 engines back in 1999, but he's gonna do what George says, so he keeps his foot in it. They have 2 laps to go, white flag now this thing's really starting to miss, and it's starting to chug along. And down the backstretch on the last lap, 2nd place gets around him, 3rd place gets around him as they come out of the 4th turn and take the checker. Bang! That thing just blows sky high. Oil and water and holes in the block and stuff everywhere. And Davey comes to a stop on the backstretch and they have to push him in, and he gets in the pits and he is just covered in oil and water, and he's miserable. He takes off his belts and he takes his helmet off. Oh my gosh, what a mess. And he looks up and he sees Snyder coming walking up kind of nonchalantly. He goes, George, I told you that engine was going to explode, man. I told you. Snyder goes, yeah, I know. I don't care. That engine belonged to Foyt. I'm glad you blew the SOB out. As we get older, we learn that life will humble you, right? And it will often humble you the most inconvenient time and in your favorite place. As I said, for 18 years, I don't know if I said that, 18 years I was on the Indianapolis Motor Speedway radio network. And doing the Indy 500, I was at different places. I was on the 9th floor of the Pagoda, I was in the North Pits, I was in the second turn. But in 2017, I was in the garage area. I had the garage area and the hospital. I was the guy nobody wanted to talk to. Yeah. Because if you were interviewed by Dave during the race, you either broke or you crashed, one of the two, not good. Well, it's a half an hour before the start of the race. 2017, Mike Pence had just been elected Vice President of the United States. Now, I had known Mike Pence for a lot of years. At WIBC, my office, and he was on Network Indiana, his office and mine were right next to each other. So we would go to lunch once a week or so. And when he ran for governor, I helped him with some announcements and did different things, and was part of his inauguration and all that. So I'd known Mike and Karen Pence for a long while. So I was anxious to talk to him now that he was Vice President of the United States. And I was going to interview him on the radio network, the Worldwide Radio Network, about an hour into the race. So it's a half an hour before the start. And at the start of the race, oftentimes there's a crash on the first lap, which means I would have had to go to the hospital and talk to the driver to find out what happened when the incident was over. Well, half an hour to go, and I'm thinking, I got all this going on, I better go take care of some personal business. So I go in the bathroom, and I've got two belts on. One belt holds up my pants. The other belt is the radio network belt, and it's holding up a bunch of heavy stuff, batteries, radios, all kinds of stuff. So I get everything all situated, and I'm holding up the radio network belt with this finger, and things are going very well, thank you. I'm thinking, oh boy, okay, now what am I going to ask Mike Pence? What am I going to ask the Vice President? And all of a sudden, my finger slipped off that belt. And the river jumped its banks. All over the front of my pants. My khaki pants. Half an hour before the start of the 500, an hour before I'm supposed to interview the Vice President of the United States. Now, how close do you think the Secret Service is going to let me get to the Vice President with a map of Lake Michigan on the front of my paper? And I don't want to be the guy interviewing the first guy that crashed on the first lap. He'll walk out of the hospital, take one look at this, and go, well, thank goodness I wasn't the first person to have an accident here today. So, man, I'm grabbing towels and I'm wiping to beat the band, and I finally get it as dry as I think I can, but still, I get in and there's nobody back there but me. Everybody else is out on the start-finish line, so I get in my golf cart and I drive to the south end of the garage area, and I'm standing there, man, where the wind and the sun can hit me directly, and I'm going, come on, Mother Nature. Well, the good news is, it dried me out. There was no accident on the first lap, and it was completely dry by the time I went to interview Mike Pence, so it all worked out great. But you know, and I know, that every square inch of that infield is covered by security cameras. So I know somewhere on the 9th floor of the Pagoda, there was a guy looking at a bank of monitors going, will you look at that? Wilson pissed his pants. I think to live in the great state of Indiana, you need to know who won the Indianapolis 500 the year you were born. Now some of you are thinking, oops, going to have to move or Google, one of the two. Now I'm pretty good post-World War II. Who does not No, who won the 500 the year they were born? Just shout out a year.
1960.
1960, Jim Rathman.
2007.
1957?
2007.
2007. Oh, I was wearing these pants. Dario Franchitti, his first of three.
1956.
1956, Pat Flattery.
2009.
2009 was Elio Castro, Elio Castro Neves, third of four.
1965.
65, Jimmy Clark.
61.
61, Foyt, first of four. 63, Parnelli Jones.
1941.
1941 was Maury Rose and LL Core. He was a core winner, and Maury Rose would go on to win two more.
46.
46 was George Robeson. 88 was Rick Mears, his third of four.
51.
51 was Lee Waller. Lee Waller, 51.
57.
57 was Sam Hanks.
95.
67 was Foyt, third of four.
95.
95 was Jacques Villeneuve.
92.
92 was Al Unser Jr., first of two. Sometimes I gotta say their names like Tom Carnegie would, sorry. Anybody else?
48.
48 was Maury Rose, his third of three. All right, now here's the deal. I got all this useless information rolling around in my head. And it gets me in trouble with my wife. Yeah, because I can remember that Louis Meyer won the 1928, 33, and 36 Indianapolis 500s. He was the first three-time winner. He was the first to drink milk in Victory Lane. He was the first to get a pace car as part of his prize, and he was the first to be awarded the Borg-Warner Trophy. But I can never remember to get her blueberry Pop-Tarts at Kroger. Thanks a lot, everybody. Enjoy the rest of the show. Appreciate you being here.
How about one more round of applause for Dave? All right, moving on. Our second comedian, again a headlining comedian, has his own dry bar comedy show. He also started, I just recently found this out, the School of Laughs, which helps comedians develop their skills and stuff like that. Some of you may have recognized him most recently from appearing in the new movie, The Mayberry Man. And I'm sure you know what party played it. Party 5, very good. All right, so if we're ready, from Nashville, Tennessee, Rik Roberts.
Thank you very much for having me. How's everybody? One more applause for Dave Wilson, by the way. That's the first time I got to see him live. That was great. Very good. Well, I'm excited to be here. I live down in Nashville, Tennessee. How many folks been in Nashville, Tennessee out there? All right. That's the party people in the crowd right there, I guarantee it. Yeah, I moved there in 1999 when they still made country music. Y'all remember those days? Like real country music. I moved there and it started changing, got a little more poppy, a little more dancey. Some of those people I still like. Trace Atkins is one of my favorite guys. Y'all know Trace Atkins? Great deep voice. And what I like about him, if he gets stuck for a rhyming word, he makes up a brand new word and slides it in there. Sometimes you're singing and don't even realize you're doing it. First time I picked up on it, I was driving down the road, that song came on, Honky Tonk Badonka Donk. Y'all know that masterpiece? Whew. That's some Shakespeare right there, ain't it? First time I hear it, it comes on the radio, it's got that great opening bass line, like, oh, pardon, I crank it all the way up, and then the nonsense starts. He's like, she's got a honky tonk badonka donk. Woo-wee! How'd she even get them britches on? That's none of your business, first off. Then he says there ought to be a law, go slap your grandma. I'm like, raise your hand if you ever slapped your grandma. Anybody have that hand to raise right now? My grandma ripped my arm off and beat me with it and crocheted it back on. Walk it off, buddy, walk it off. Yeah, I like a lot of country music, but you know, my wife, she likes country, she thinks, but she likes all the people that I think ruined it. Like, her favorite male singer of all time was Billy Ray Cyrus. Like, how does that happen in a free country? That's my question. He had a CD called It Won't Be the Last, and it was. So there you go. That was an achy breaky bad mistakey right there, wasn't it? And then now it gets to where people just are in country music for a year or two and they get a follow and then they go pop or do whatever else they want. Like my daughter, she's into Taylor Swift. You ever listen to that gal? Oh man, she got 16 different songs about breaking up with boyfriends. I mean, after 16, the problem could be you. Why you gotta be so mean? Just shake it off, you know? I was thinking that'd be tough if you're a guy and you're on a date with her. The whole time you're probably thinking, what does my name rhyme with? But I liked a lot of music. Grew up on rock and roll. First concert I ever saw was Kiss when I was in 4th grade. Y'all remember Kiss? I saw them in '77. I saw them last year and they need the makeup this time around, don't they? That's a wagon load of ugly on tour right there. Hope concert sponsored by Mary Kay just to help them out. I don't know, I get to work with musicians once in a while. I worked with Huey Lewis in the News a while ago. You ever seen Huey Lewis? Now he was in the 80s, that's when he was big, and I listened to some of his stuff when I was in high school, and I worked with him. And I said, man, I love your music, but I gotta ask you a question about that one song, I Want a New Drug. Y'all remember that song? I said, you're a clean-cut guy, I don't know why you're singing about drugs, I never put it together. He goes, man, that song's gonna follow me around forever. I was singing about love. I just switched the words love and drug around in that song. He said, nobody figured it out. I'm like, well, I didn't until just now. But you should do that with every song. Like, we could do that when we're hearing the radio on the way home today, just to make it more fun, you know? Like, when a man drugs a woman. Hello, I drugged you, won't you tell me your name? If you can't be with the one you drug the one that brung you. That's what I don't know anything about drugs. I don't even know, like, I don't understand any of the stuff that's going on in the world with THC and CBD oils and all that stuff. I don't know how any of that's legal. Like, there's a company in Nashville started a CBD oil hand sanitizer company. I don't know if it kills the germs or just makes them really lazy and confused and inactive. The only time I ever came across any of it was when I was in junior high school. We had an assignment for a leaf collection. Y'all remember leaf collection? Well, it turns out my dad's tobacco farm used to be a hemp farm back in the 50s and 60s. I had no idea. I took a big leaf, I put it in my collection, try to look it up in the tree book, and I can't find it anywhere. I'm like, extra credit for me, right on. I grabbed extra leaves to give to my friends for their collections. Now I'm a dealer. Day of things due, I still don't know what it is. I asked my teacher, I said, do you know what this is? I can't find it in the tree book. Is it the Japanese maple maybe? She goes, young man, that's pot, it's marijuana, it's cannabis, it's Mary Jane, it's sweet leaf, it's wacky tobacco. I'm like, well, I didn't leave that much room down here to label that. Just pick one. Wacky tobacco, alrighty. I said, you know, what are you going to do, flunk me? I'm sorry. She goes, no, but I have to take this whole thing outside and burn it right in front of your face. Half hour later, we're both in the cafeteria looking for Rice Krispie treats. I was all messed up at recess. Those squirrels are looking at us like we're nuts. Got an A+ in art. I was doing good that day. Now, I only know about old people drugs right now. I'm on that Lipitor pretty hard. Anybody else on that Lipitor? Anybody got the high cholesterol? Yeah, I found out a while ago I had the high cholesterol, 425. I know. That's the highest in my county, so I got to go to regionals that weekend. I was eating butter to get my numbers up, you know. My doctor didn't laugh, man. It shocked him. They said, you need to change your diet and your exercise programs. I'm like, I don't have either program going on right now. I said, what should I do first? And this is the kind of health insurance I can afford. He just says, get on a diet you can stick with and come back in 3 months, we'll check you again. I said, I get to pick the diet. He goes, just pick one you can stick with. Well, I don't know nothing. I started Googling diets, and I found a website. You put in what food you like to eat, and it tells you if there's a diet that lets you eat it. Yeah, and I like to eat meat, so it told me to get on the Atkins diet. You ever hear about that one? Yeah. Boy, it looks good on paper, don't it? But it's hard to stick with. You're supposed to eat meat 5 or 6 times a day. Then it says smoke a cigarette and take a nap. That was a Chet Atkins diet that I got on. If you don't know who he is, you probably don't have high cholesterol. So that just made my number go up to 432. I was eating meat 6 times a day. So the second visit, he goes, you need to exercise. He goes, why don't you ride a bicycle 3 or 4 times a week for like an hour at a time? I said, I'll tell you why not. I'm 55 years old. You see a man my age on a bicycle, you're like, that guy had a repo or a DUI. You're not laughing, you rode here on the bike. So I said, I can't do that, man, I don't have time. He goes, well, we got wonderful medicine we can put you on. He said, wonderful. I'm like, okay. I don't know about that word, because I've seen every pill commercial on TV. The side effects are way worse than what you start off with, right? How about when they say stuff like, may cause an early death? Well, you don't slide that in the last 5 seconds. You lead with that story there, Mr. Conrad. Let's go. Yeah, sometimes they say stuff like, may cause explosive, diarrhea. I don't want to take a pill and play beat the clock the rest of the afternoon. And so I said, all right, if you got to put me on medicine, put me on medicine. He said, well, we got a 2-week supply of Lipitor. We'll put you on that and see if you have side effects. Well, I had no side effects until the 15th day when I had to pay for it. Yeah. Don't know what Lipitor cost? $8 a pill. That's a Big Mac and a side of fries right there, ain't it? $8. And one more I got, and I took my pill and I dropped it halfway. I couldn't find it nowhere. I lost $8 right there in the shag carpet. So now I just wrap a piece of bacon around and swallow it whole every day. Melt some cheese on there, get a toothpick, it's a pill and a blanket. I think it's a scam. Don't y'all think high cholesterol is a scam? Yeah. I got 2 reasons why. First off, my grandma lived to be 99 years old. She used the same bacon grease she kept in a Folgers can underneath the kitchen sink for 50 years. Y'all know grandmas like this? We'd go to her house on a Saturday morning, she'd get a metal ice cream scoop and scoop some of that out and throw it in that pan and it'd start to dissolve. There'd be a piece of ham from 75 just hanging on waving at you. Take me with you, I'm tired of this. My name's Judy. She lived to be 99, we don't need less lard, we need more of it. And the other reason I think it's a scheme is I didn't have it till my doctor said it did. Pretty good till I went to see him. But I try to be healthy, I used to smoke cigarettes. My dad grew tobacco, so I thought I was just helping him out all them years smoking them cigarettes. When I quit, Marlboro found out. That's how much I was smoking. Yeah. Back in the 90s, they encouraged it, didn't they? They had incentive programs. Marlboro had a catalog full of free stuff you could get if you smoked their cigarettes. You'd smoke them, you save the UPC symbol off the carton or the pack, and if you live long enough, you'd fill out this form and send it on in there. But the thing that got me is everything in the catalog was hiking equipment for smokers. When's the last time you saw somebody climbing Mount Everest? I couldn't have done it without these Marlboro Reds. Turns out the secret's stopping every 20 minutes or 40 minutes to smoke a couple of these bad boys. Everything in that catalog would have killed a smoker if they used it every day. They had mountain bikes, they had hiking boots, they had an 18-foot long inflatable kayak. Can you name one smoker who can inflate an 18-foot long? That's going to take the whole weekend, like, that bird goes around the middle. How'd they get this? Come on back and take her. Are the wood spinning for everybody? I don't know. I don't know if I could afford to smoke cigarettes now. I was up in New York City a while back. A friend of mine dropped me off at the corner while he circled the block. He said, get me a pack of Marlboros in there, and I'll meet you back here in about 5. I said, all right. I go in, I give the guy $5. I'm waiting on change. You know how much a pack of Marlboro costs in New York City? $16.95. He told me how much it cost. I didn't have any extra money on me. But luckily, there's a big donation jar sitting right next to his cash register for the American Lung Association. So, need a penny, take a penny. But I try to get healthier because I got younger kids. I'm 55, got an 18-year-old boy, 11-year-old baby girl. And if that's not enough, recently my wife has started talking about adoption. I'm like, honey, you need to slow down. I don't think anybody's going to take these kids off her hands at this point. You pick. The little one gets up kind of early. Now, they're good kids. My son just graduated high school last night, and I'm proud of him. He's always been a good kid. The only trouble I had with him is when he turned 16, I could not get him behind the wheel of a car to learn how to drive. Y'all know teenagers like this? They want no part of it. I said, man, your friends will be driving, you'll be left behind. He goes, no, they're not going to drive either. Then I did some research, and it turns out they were just all afraid they were going to have a head-on collision with a job or an occupation. Get sideswiped by a W9 at a four-way if you're not careful out there. I said, well, you got to get a car so you can get a summer job, you know, and put a little money in your pocket. He goes, where am I going to work in? I said, man, if nothing else, McDonald's is always hiring. He goes, Papa, I can't work at McDonald's. I said, sure. He goes, no, the Bible clearly says, do not work for the food that spoils, but instead work for the food that nourishes eternally. I'm like, man, that is good, but I've had that McDonald's food and I've seen a documentary. That food does not spoil, so get on down there. Get you a McJob. But I was still driving him and his friends to birthday parties when they were 17 years old. Isn't that embarrassing? They asked me to take him to Topgolf one time. Y'all ever been to a Topgolf? Man, whoever came up with this, they're genius. You just got to find an old rundown hotel and knock the back half of it off, right? That's all you're doing. So he said, will you take me and 5 of my best buds down to Topgolf? They just had opened one up in Nashville. I said, all right, I'll take y'all down there, but after this, y'all got to drive. I had 6 teenage boys in my car. First off, crack a window, fellas, all right? Get some D.O. for the B.O. Second, I've never heard so many voices cracking in my entire life. They're like, is that a honky tonk? What am I doing, driving a puberty Uber? What's going on here? But he's a good kid. He's always been good. You know, when you have your first kid, people tell you to write down the funny stuff they say, because babies and little kids, they say funny stuff when they start talking, you know. Sometimes they say creepy stuff, and nobody warns you about that. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Like, I remember my son was like 3 years old. I was tucking him into bed one night and said, hey, buddy, I hope you have sweet dreams. He looks right up at me and goes, I hope you're still breathing when I wake up in the morning. What do you know that I don't know? I was awake. I didn't sleep a wink that whole night. And sometimes when they say funny stuff, you can't laugh because it wasn't the right kind of funny. You know what I mean? I mean, it's funny, but you can't encourage more of it. Like, he was like 11 or 12, we're brushing our teeth one night, and he's ready to go to bed, he's brushed, he's got a loose one, so he's working on it. And I said, what's going on, buddy? And he's like looking at me and looking at him, back and forth. I'm like, what's going on? And he said, Papa, I just started noticing me and you, we kind of look alike. I said, well, yeah, it's kind of how it works. What do you think about that? He looks back at me and goes, what are you going to do? You're going to go to bed early, that's what you're going to do. I'm going to close your door all the way. Hope you're still breathing when I wake up in the morning. But he's a good kid. I got an 11-year-old daughter. She's sweet when she wants to be, and she's a handful the rest of the time. You know what I mean? Like, I'm a dad, and she's a girl, and I don't want to tell a girl to suppress all her feelings, you know, but boy, I wish she would. It would make life so much easier. Like, when she starts dating, I'm going to be sitting on the front porch with a rifle and just give it to the guy and say, fend for yourself, buddy. Do whatever you got to do. Clean it before you drop it. No, but she gets me in trouble. Like, we're at Five Below the other day. Y'all ever go Five Below? Most of it's $10, so don't believe it. But we're buying something, we're waiting in line, and we're waiting for the self-kiosk because nobody works at their own job anymore. And my daughter is like staring way across the thing at this other lady and her daughter. And I'm like, don't stare. She goes, Papa, you gotta look. And I said, don't stare. She goes, look. And I look over at her, and that lady and her daughter standing there checking out, and the lady was wearing a pair of them Spanx. Now, I think they're supposed to be undergarments, right? They're not supposed to be out on top, right? They're supposed to be underwear, but they was out there and everywhere on this lady. They were like, she thought she was wearing Lululemons to the parade or something. She just, I mean, and by the way, them Spanx were working hard. They were working hard, like trying to get the Thanksgiving turkey back into plastic. It was just a mess. Get in there. But that's just what it was. And I said, well, don't stare at her. And she goes, no. Is she's wearing her pajamas to the store? I said, no. And as quiet as I could possibly say it, I said, I think those are called Spanx. And louder than my daughter's ever said anything in her whole life. She goes, Spanx? That's a full-blown whooping over there. get on home. That's the kind of girl I got. I don't know how to change her, but she's like that. I don't know, but they're good kids overall. My wife's great, been married for about 25 years or so, which is pretty good, but I know we got some people out there that probably can beat me on that. Anybody more than 40 years in the audience? How long for y'all over there?
It'll be 49 in November.
49. Nice. Anybody out there longer than 49 years of being married? How long for you? 50. I got 49 right there. I got 50 back there. I got 51. 51 going with that. Another round of applause for those two couples back there. 49, 51. 100 years old today. That's great. You know, when you first get married, you don't realize like that it's not going to be the same. Like they should put a lot more stuff in the wedding vows. Like in about 10 years, whole different person. Are you okay with that? Like my wife is at a point now where she says stuff that only makes sense to her and nobody else. Back in February, she said this, and I wrote it down. She goes, "I want you to communicate more, but I'm tired of hearing you talk." I could have been thinking the same thing, but I didn't know how to say it. I said, "What does that even mean?" She goes, "Sometimes we'll sit down and we'll talk for a whole hour, but we get up, we haven't said nothing at all." Like that's how we're still married, you know? It's the stuff you don't say that really keeps you together, right? She goes, "Sometimes I think you want me to be able to read your mind." I go, "Oh no, I don't know what you're doing." You know, slashed my tires yesterday. She goes, "Well, I can tell you're thinking something right now, but you don't know whether you should say it or not." I'm like, "Honey, that's all the time. What are you trying to get at?" But she was right. We're sitting on the couch. It was early February. She had roped me to watch one of them Hallmark movies. Fellas, you ever have to watch a Hallmark movie? Oh my goodness. There's a couple hours you're never going to get back in your life. Hey, if you've never seen one, I don't want to spoil how it turns out at the end or nothing like that. But the one we were watching, there's this lady like 39 years old, and all of a sudden out of the blue, she gets a text from this boy that she knew in high school. She'd been single her whole life, but all of a sudden her phone just blows up. He says, "I'm coming back to town to visit my mama. Can we get together for a cup of coffee?" And she's like, "Absolutely." She gets so excited about it. She starts knitting him a sweater out of cat hair she got laying around her car. She got 72 cats and no man. Go figure life. But she's excited, and all of a sudden he said, "I'm flying in tomorrow. I'll call you when I'm about a half hour out." So he lands at the airport. Boom, snowstorm, ice storm comes out of nowhere. Y'all seen this one? His rental car starts sliding all over the road. He gets to the covered bridge, and he's afraid to cross it because the bridge is ice before roadways, you know, and it's an old bridge. He said, "I can't make it across. I'm sorry. Maybe we can meet up tomorrow." She said, "Don't worry about it." Lucky for him, she runs a tow truck company on the side. Yeah. She said, "I'll meet you at that covered bridge." So she meets him there, starts pulling that car across that old covered bridge, and about halfway across it starts bouncing up and down and cracks, and he gets swept away in the icy river and drowns and dies. That's the worst movie ever, ain't it? I mean, I don't know if that's how it ended. I fell asleep during the opening credits, but could have been. I'd watch that movie, to be honest with you, to see how it got out. But we were watching that little Hallmark movie, and every commercial that came on for Valentine's Day was telling us fellas to spend way too much money, I thought. Like, one commercial, did y'all see this one? It goes, "Get her a car, she won't expect it." Well, no, she won't. I don't think she'll take a full tank of gas at these prices right now. I said, "Well, honey, here's what I'm thinking. I'm watching TV, it's telling me to buy you cars and trips." I said, "I'll get you whatever you want, but I'm out of ideas after 25 years, 3 years before that." I said, "I'm just going to communicate to you instead of talk. I don't know what to buy you. Is there something you would like?" And she looks back at me, she goes, "Well, I didn't know it stressed you out to buy presents, so you don't have to. And how about this year for Valentine's Day, we just exchange ideas to each other on a piece of paper instead?" I said, "What kind of ideas?" She said, "I'm writing down a couple of things you're not doing right around the house you can do better. And you write down a couple of bad." I'm like, "Stop right there. That's like a trapped girl on an escalator." I said, "Let me get this right. We're going to teach other stuff that we're not doing right around the house, and that's a nice romantic Valentine's Day." She goes, "Well, if we fix those 6 or 7 things." I'm like, "She's got this started already." I was down 6-0, doesn't even play in the game. But I already said yes, and now I'm thinking I got to get 6 on her, you know. And I don't know. I don't think she does anything wrong. She does weird stuff. Like anybody you live with, they all got weird stuff they do, right? You just kind of got to laugh it off. Like the one thing she does, she pretends things never happened. Like my wife, She just tries to dismiss it to make it go away, but it really happened. Stuff that doesn't even matter. I made a cup of coffee a few weeks ago. It was real hot, put it on the counter. Went to get the mail, paper, talked to my neighbor, came back in. She was finishing off my last drop of coffee and putting the mug in the dishwasher. Not a big deal, but I'm just teasing her. I'm like, honey, did you just drink my last cup of coffee? She's like, maybe I did, maybe I didn't. And she runs out of the room. It's just you and me here right now. I'm pretty sure you did. It's not a big deal, but she does it all the time. So that afternoon, I was trying to find a way to get her back, you know. And she just folded all the towels out of the dryer and put them in the basket. Towels, washcloths, and everything, stacked them up. My job is usually to take them and put them away. But when she wasn't looking, I took all those towels and threw them back in the dryer. I am lucky to still be alive. Man, I threw them in there, and about 10 minutes later, she walks by the laundry room and she's like, oh, huh? I could have swore I folded all them towels. I'm like, maybe you did, maybe you didn't. I ran upstairs to take a shower and locked the door behind me, and she's flushing the toilet trying to scald me, like, are you flushing the toilet? Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. And I get down with my shower, and I reach out, and there's no towels. I threw them all back in the dryer. And I run downstairs. So she does stuff like that, but I didn't write that one down. I wrote a couple other things down. We'll go out to Valentine's Day dinner. Worst night of the year to go out to eat. Don't do it. Y'all been in that mess? We're waiting 45 minutes for the food. I said, why we're waiting? What am I not doing right? She goes, buddy, how about this? If I ask you to fix something in the house, can you do it the same year I ask you to do it? I'm like, give me an example. I'll ask you to change a light bulb that burns out. You wait till every light bulb around it burns out. Then you change them all at once. I'm like, that's why they got the extras done. You know? I didn't say it out loud, but I was thinking it. I said, honey, I'll try harder. She goes, what about me? I said, listen, I want to be perfectly clear. You're not doing nothing wrong. Nothing. One thing I even kind of missed before we had our kids 18 years ago, sometimes on a Saturday morning, if I wasn't traveling, you would surprise me with this big old breakfast, like I had growing up on the farm. Grits, gravy, ham, eggs, everything. I said, I know it takes a long time. I don't expect it, but boy, I miss that big old breakfast. I looked back across the table. She started tearing up and crying right there at the Hardee's. Try to go somewhere nice, you know. I said, I didn't mean to make you cry. It's a compliment. She goes, well, I didn't think you liked my breakfast cooking. That's why I quit. Not because of the kids or anything else. I just didn't think you liked it. Then I started tearing up and crying. Thinking about 18 years of Fruity Pebbles and Pop-Tarts I've been shoveling down with soy milk. Ugh. You ever have soy milk? It's like wine out in the water. It's like, put a straw in, the straw's like, you know. So I said, well, you don't have to make me breakfast again, but I just kind of miss it. She goes, no, maybe one day I'll make you breakfast again. I'm like, all right, maybe one day I'll change the light bulb. But fellas, here's why you communicate. The very next morning I wake up at 6 a.m. I smell maple syrup, pancakes, I have no idea what else. I run downstairs and my sweet wife had bought a candle somewhere that smells. It's funny now, ain't it? It's hilarious now. You ever been hungry and mad at 6 a.m.? I hit the bottom step, I see a candle, it's pitch black. I'm like, what is going on? It's like, oh, I had to use that. Your last light bulb just burned out. Got me twice. But no, she's a great lady. I'm surprised I even married her. I mean, look at me. Aren't you? It's just a surprise. When I went to propose to her, I was actually getting ready to, and then I thought, man, she's going to say no. So I backed off a little bit, and then I thought, man, I need to get her an engagement ring. That's part of the process, right? So I'm like, what ring size is she? I had no idea. Ladies, how do you know each other's ring sizes? There's no way to know. I was trying to be sneaky and figure out what ring size she was. Around Thanksgiving that year, I had her trace her hand on a piece of paper. Made me a turkey hand drawing. She didn't know what I was up to, and neither did the guy at the jewelry store. You gonna marry a turkey or what? What's going on here? I said, can't you ballpark the ring size from a turkey hand drawing? He goes, no, man. He goes, listen, all you gotta do, when you go pick her up for a date, see if you can find out where she keeps her other rings. She'll have a box or a drawer of them. He said, just grab one of those she never wears and bring it down here before she misses it, and I'll size it up. He goes, you think you can do that? I said, oh, yeah. Because back in those days when we were dating, she'd spend extra time getting ready. Y'all ladies remember those days with extra time? Oh yeah. Now it's just socks and Crocs and we're off to Walmart. But you know, back in the days, we changed a lot. But back in those days, but still, she has an eyebrow still, it comes straight out. We don't know what's up with it. It's like, it comes right at you. And when she was dating me, she was self-conscious. You know, she'd spray hairspray on her thumb and mash back on it like that, you know. And if she let off 1 second too early, ping, it popped right back out. She tried trimming it, it just got stronger like coax, you know. So I was in the kitchen waiting on her to get ready and I heard ping. I'm like, she just had to hit reset on that eyebrow. I got 5 minutes right now. So I run into her room, I look around, sure enough, I find her ring, take it to the jewelry store the next day. He's got a piece of rebar, he drops it on to tell you what size it is. Seamless, foolproof. He goes, now what do you want to do? I said, give me an engagement ring and a wedding band that matches just while we're here and 2 separate receipts in case she runs off with it. You know, I'm not going through that a 4th time. I wish I was making that up. So then I had that ring burn a hole in my pocket from Thanksgiving till Christmas morning. I'm in Arkansas in front of all my future in-laws. Get down on bended knee, pop the question, and apparently I had gotten a toe ring out of her dresser drawer. You ever seen a princess cut toe ring? She didn't complain, she just put on a flip-flop and hobbled on down the aisle. Do you take this man? I reckon. Oh, she's a good gal. She puts up with my family. I love my family. My mom and dad's still with us. Saw them last week. My dad's 87, my mom's 85 years old. Still in the little ranch house on the tobacco farm that I grew up on. I mean, it's still there. I visited, I said, anything new going on around here, Mom? My mom was so excited. She goes, yeah, we just got a home security system installed. What do you think about that? I'm like, well, what do you think? Somebody's going to break in and remodel when you're not looking? I mean, if somebody broke down my parents' door, they would think they got inside a 70s museum by accident. They'd trip over the beanbag chair, hit the couch, and slide off the plastic that came with the couch. They'd hit the wall, big orange picture made of yarn and nails and sticks that come right down on top of it. My dad would be throwing pet rocks. Stay down, stay down. Like, even if somebody broke in, they couldn't get away with your stereo. They'd bring 8 more guys in a pickup truck. You know what I mean? You remember that stereo 6 foot wide hi-fi? Would you have green or red or gold velour speakers 3 feet apart? I said, somebody breaks in, just hide that middle compartment between the speakers and wait for them to go away. If they stay too long, just pop out with an Oak Ridge Boys 8-track tape. Take it. Giddy up, boom, bop, mow, mow. This house is protected by Elvira. I know I shouldn't make fun of that stereo. It's going to be mine one day. My parents are downsizing. Boy, that's a nice word. They're just giving me stuff they should have thrown away 40 or 50 years ago. Coupons for Piggly Wiggly from 1976. Let it go. Yeah, when I was there, my mom gave me an old computer she found in the attic. A Commodore 64. Y'all remember that computer? She says, can you get it up and running for me? I said, oh yeah, we get Windows 57 on there, pretty sure. You can't even get a virus. It gets a sniffle, shuts right on down. Yeah, that was my older brother's computer. He got that one in the 80s, I guess, when it came out. And he instantly took to it. That's what he does for a job now, computer programming. My parents had never been online until this past Christmas. Isn't that amazing? They didn't want to. I said, hey, you live without it? No biggie. It's just a hassle half the time. They said, well, we're not driving down the 3 hours to visit like we want to. You know, my dad's got cataracts and my mom can't hear. So if they're in the car together, it's like Mr. Magoo driving Miss Daisy. It's good. It is a hot AARP mess, I tell you what. So she said, we talked to our friends, and our friends told us we can get a big computer with a screen on it, and we can just Zoom call them and FaceTime them and all this stuff. She goes, can we get hooked up on that? I said, oh yeah, that'd be great. So we got him a laptop, hooked him up on it, Christmas Day, showed him how to use all of it. A couple days later, I'm back in Nashville. My dad calls me up on a landline. He said, Richard Dale, we're about to fire off an email. Keep an eye out for it. I said, I will, but just so you know, you don't have to call everybody right before you fire off an email to him. But I figured he just wanted to make sure I got it, you know. So I checked the inbox. There is an email, but it's not from my dad. It's asking me if I want to follow him on Twitter. This ain't good for nobody right here. For the life of me, I have no idea how he got on there. And in 2 days, cranked out 164 tweets. All capital letters, no punctuation, 0 followers. Like, he ain't hurt nobody, he's just tweeting in the breeze, let it rip. Then I start scrolling down through it and realize it's not 164. It's one tweet that took him 2 days to type in there. It's a whole story about birds. Because my dad thought Twitter was a bird watching update on the website. That's my gene pool. If you're on Twitter, you can find him. He's at Nuthatcher. 401-261853, which is also his social security number. Go get yourself something nice. Oh man. Well, I do like coming up to Indiana. It's been a while since I've been up here. You know, when I first started comedy, Dave was talking about when he first started. I started in 1991. Was based in Columbus, Ohio, and I'd come to Crackers and Broad Ripple Comedy Club, and I had a great time. And then sometimes I would have an extra gig on the Monday or Tuesday, and I always remember, the only thing I didn't like about the state, and it's not your all's fault, is driving from Indianapolis like up to South Bend. Like, is it 31? Has it gotten any better? Oh man, I remember just driving, and you ever get 2 speeding tickets in one day? Anybody else? I got one in Westfield, the next one in Kokomo. Guys, I just talked to you a few minutes ago. The worst time I ever got caught for speeding, I was in Kansas. As he was talking about, there's not a lot in Kansas, like he said. The highway patrol there has to drive Mustangs and Trans Ams and Camaros so they can sneak up on you, right? Because if they drove anything else, you could see them 6 or 7 hours away, right? I don't know. Guy goes flying by me in a Trans Am. I'm like, all right, got to keep up with him. He's got a radar detector. Yeah, he had a radar, I did not detect it, apparently. So I was trying to catch up to him. At the time, I had a 1996 3 out of 4 cylinder Isuzu pickup truck with a camper top on the back. That's a woman getter right there, ain't it, ladies? Not the kind of woman you want to get, but she climb on in there, you know. I don't even know what that means. But anyway, I'm driving, he speeds by me, I'm like, I gotta catch up. Try to catch up, takes me a half an hour in my 3-cylinder Gale. Then he started slowing down. I'm like, uh-oh, must be a speed trap, I'll slow down too. Then he speeds up, then he starts swerving everywhere. I'm like, that guy has fallen asleep behind the wheel. I should try to get his attention and see if he's okay. Yeah. You ever been so stupid you pull the cops over? Anybody else? That is a paperwork nightmare, I tell you. I don't know how to pull anybody over. I'm in my truck, I just start flipping my one good high beam at him for a while. Roll down my window, I'm like, woo, woo. He pulls right over. I must have swallowed 13 skeeters before he did, but he pulls right over. I wait for him to get out of his car, but he doesn't get out. Now I think he's had a heart attack or something. Jump out of my truck, run up to his window. I just start pounding on his window. Meanwhile, he's been loading his revolver on the other side. Then he cracks the window and I see he's an officer. I got 0 game plan. But I start thinking I should arrest him for reckless driving before he gets me for speeding. But I don't know how to arrest anybody. All I know is from watching the Andy Griffith Show my whole life. And that's where the whole impression came from. I just walked up to the guy, I'm like, hey! Would you mind rolling down? You want to get out of the vehicle? You're a big one too, aren't you? Look at you. I want to know why I pulled you over. Because I'm an idiot. I thought I was going to prison right there. He's like, you're so weird, I'll drop you off wherever you want to go. Well, I got to get out of here real quickly before I do. Man, we've got a lot of fun people here. It's great seeing some people that I've met before and some friends. And we have a very special person here that's celebrating a 94th birthday party. And he's sitting in the 2nd row, and his nickname is Hot Tamale. His initials are HT. And he served in the Korean MASH unit. How about a big round of applause for a young man in front who brings down HT, a good man. I'll give those to you. Everybody today, I'm glad you're here. We're here for a great cause. We're all trying to find different ways to raise a little extra money for the scholarship fund as well. I've got a DVD, several of the DVDs of the Mayberry Man movie here. If you haven't seen it yet or you'd like a copy, those will be out there. You can buy those and proceeds will go to the cause. If you enjoyed my comedy show, I've got CDs. The CDs are free because nobody has a CD player anymore. So come out there, see me on the way out. Thank you guys very much. God bless you. Appreciate you. Stick around for the rest of the show.
I'll keep the applause going one more time for Rik Roberts. All right, y'all guys have a good time tonight? Enjoy it? So before we bring out our last comedian, I do want to tell you all thank you again for taking a Saturday afternoon out to come out and hang out with us. We do appreciate it. Visit our website if you get a chance. It's blueangelconnect.org. We do a lot of things in the Hancock and Henry County area throughout the year, as I mentioned earlier, to raise money for needy families in the area. So keep an eye out. We do have pictures of all of our events, and we keep people up to date on what's going on. So again, thank you for coming. I do want to give a special shout out and thank you tonight to Daniel's Vineyard out of McCourtsville for coming out tonight to supply the beer and the wine. So I think they're still here, so give them a round of applause so they can hear that. And also I want to give a special thanks to the Mount Vernon National Honor Society. They're the ones that help you guys find your seats tonight. I know they're sitting in the back, so if you could give them a round of applause too, I appreciate it. And our final guest tonight, comedian, he also has a dry bar comedy show, also a regular on the Bob and Tom show as well. He's been featured on HBO, Comedy Central, Fox as well. And one important thing about him, I found out so much about these guys that I never knew. Dave also holds a world record. Anybody know what that's for? He's actually driven the most times around a roundabout. Any idea how many times? 1,001. So, without any further ado, please give a warm welcome